All right, awesome. I'm excited to be here with James from Curator. James, we've chatted a lot over the last couple days and couple years, so I'm excited to be chatting with you again because I want to dive into more of your story. You have an interesting and colorful background. So would you mind taking us back to what did you do before and how did you get into the photo booth industry?
Well, first, Ismail, thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm really happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to where this conversation goes. So where did I start? Oof, man. All right, I've said this a million times, and really there's several starts to, I guess you could say, me, and then there's several starts to Curator. So for me, I started many, many years ago. And my first introduction to photography at events was I was roaming around Tampa, skydiving back in the day, and I needed a job. I went into a pizzeria. I was just hungry, and I was hungry for a job as well. There were two girls that were sitting down at a table, and they had careerbuilder.com shirts on. And I was like, as vibrant as I am and outgoing as I am, I was like, all right, let me just go walk up to them and see if they can maybe help me get a job. Walk up to them. Lo and behold, I found out that what they were doing was they were on a mobile marketing tour for a marketing agency doing an experiential event. And they actually needed a tour manager. They needed somebody had just left their tour. So during that conversation, they introduced me to the marketing agency. Literally the next day, like hours after the interview, I was hired. They put me up a hotel and they trained me. Next thing you know, I'm going to these events, but at these events, they were using a photo activation tool. And the photo activation tool allowed the person to take a picture or scan a QR code first, take a picture, and allowed the person to go to a microsite to pick up their photo along with a promotional item. And that was kind of my first foray or, entrance into the industry. And then obviously that kind of snowballed from there. I mean, I was in the marketing industry. I did several mobile marketing tours. I actually moved to San Francisco. I worked for a marketing agency there, helped them create some mobile marketing experiences and experiential events. And really, during my my career, I went to I started working for a staffing agency and for events because I've always been within the event world. And while I was there, I got to the point where I was like, I'm kind of done with this. And my wife was pregnant at the time, and I remember looking at her and saying, honey, I think I could build a photo booth. I'm like, I'm doing all these events for these larger brands and agencies, and I'm hiring these photo booth companies. I think I could do it myself. I really do. So she backed me 100%. I mean, I love my wife for it. I mean, she's awesome. And I literally built my first photo booth, which what I would say actually was the first newer light. It was before the ring lights even started coming out and becoming a thing. I
think you bought the first one.
I did.
Yeah, how'd you pull that off?
So it was interesting. I was actually on Twitter and I saw that newer Ring had created their first ring light. It did not have the LEDs. It was the bulb. And I actually reached out to them and I said to them, hey, can I buy that from you? And they're like, no. I was like, wait, what? And I hit them up again and they were like, sure, we'll send you the demo unit if you're willing to pay this price. So they did. They sent it to me. And I remember going through that process of building my first photo booth. All right, how am I going to mount this? Where am I going to put the iPad? What software am I going to use? How am I going to cover up all the wires? Because obviously you want to make it look nice, especially when you're doing, events for the likes of Macy's and Fiat and so forth. And literally the next day, after I got the Ring unit, I bought a speaker tripod stand, got a scrim, put the iPad in it, found an app through a competitor. Actually, now they're a competitor, but at the time they were one of the photo booth applications that were available, and did it. And it just, heck, that's where it started.
You mentioned that you were just done with it, and you saw the photo booth, and you're like, I could do this. Why were you done with your previous career, and what did you see in the photo booth side that drew you there? Because you probably could have done a lot of other things.
Well, I wouldn't say that I was done. I was done with not the previous career, but with the way, that's a deeper conversation, but just with the way that things were happening, I guess. I saw a bigger picture. What I did was, after I got into the photo booth industry, and what I did as I I started talking with my partner now, Todd Albert and Jesse Winchester. I was like, guys, I'm doing these events for these larger corporations. I could sell a few of these in and let's see if we can make something of it. And we did. I sold in Fiat. We ended up doing a single camera 360 experience directly for Fiat. We traveled the circuit, went to Chicago, went to LA, went to Detroit, and we activated these. So we were essentially an activation agency. That's what we were doing. And after we did that, the next client would come and say, hey, could you do something but with digital props? Could you do something but with magic, AI background removal? Could you do something but maybe with green screen? And we actually did an event for the Weather Channel where they actually gave us access directly to their API, which allowed us to, the person enter in their zip code for where they lived. We would do a green screen removal, but with a live view of their actual location at the event. Like, that's awesome. So really cool stuff. And, after I got into the photo booth industry, built that first unit, did a few events, ended up working for another photo marketing agency, looked at what they were doing and said to myself, I could do this better, and I'd like to take everything that we've done and everything that I've learned and offer it to all the other photo boothers. I'm just one. There's a few little agencies, but there's lots. I'm talking many photo booth companies out there. There's so many. So if you don't mind digging slight distraction
the mindset there a little bit, because a lot of people may have thought, hey, I've got this thing that's working. Yeah. Let me keep it to myself. Let me keep doing these events. Let me develop a better tool and keep it for my clients. Well, what about you? Or how did you think about, I want to bring this to the masses?
Sure. Well, the entrepreneur, my entrepreneur mind basically said, all right, I can keep this to myself or I can offer it to everyone. And this is a great business, not only for myself, but a great business for them, and allow them and give them the tools so that they can actually do what I was doing and what my competitors were doing and so forth. That was really the direction in which we were going. So I just said, let's do it. Let's create a photo booth application. And I remember sitting there actually with Todd at the time. We're actually inside of his living room. And this is down in South Florida. And we were talking. And I just remember that when we both made the decision at that time to say, hey, let's take everything that we've done. Let's take the green screen. Let's take the magic. Let's take the digital props. Let's take all of this, cram it into an iOS application, and let's offer it to the photo boothing world, to the photo marketing world, because, that's what happens. I remember that.
That's so fascinating, because I know you and I read a lot of the same stuff, and I'm always fascinated with people's mindset. Like the mindset of limitation or abundance. And I think you fall more into the abundance mindset.
Sure.
And a lot of people get stuck because they're more in the limited mindset. They're competing. They're trying to hold it. But sometimes you win more by sharing it, by opening up. One of the other really unique things about you is that you have the experience from the agency side, not only from the photo booth side. You built a photo booth, so you have kind of a perspective from all angles. What can you share as inside information from the agency side to people, to the photo booth? Like, how do they get those clients? What do those clients want?
Sure.
What's the perspective from that side?
It all comes down to one thing, and I truly believe this, and it's something I live by. It's the relationship. So, most people jump onto a phone call or meet somebody at an event, Ismail, and they'll sit there and say, hey, hi, I have a photo booth, or hi, I can create a photo activation for you, and this is what I offer. And they throw a deck in front of them, or they'll throw, a few photos and say, look what I created. How many people, just like that individual, do the same exact thing? And they're, as somebody on the agency side, at the time, that's what I had. I had photo booth companies coming to me and showing me the same thing. I'm like, all right, good. Seen it. But then, the one person, it's like, hey, James, how are you? How are your kids doing? Oh, you live in Florida? What part of Florida? Really, that relationship goes further than anything else. And I even with, what I mean? It's like when you and I jumped on a phone the first time, this is going back actually.
Yeah,
I think
years.
Exactly. Right before the pandemic happened. You were talking to me about a conference at the time. I think we were talking about a business idea, whatever it might be. But really, the conversation came into how much you and I had a love for motivational speakers, personal training, and things like that. And honestly, I look at you and I say, all right, I've got that relationship with you. It's not about you trying to sell me something or me trying to sell you something. It's like, if I called you, your first reaction is not going to be like, oh, it's James. He's going to sell me something. It's, oh, cool. It's James. I'm going to talk about Tony Robbins, I'm going to talk about Deepak Chopra or Wim Hof method or something that's even cooler than what we sell.
You look forward to picking up the phone as opposed to trying to hide because you think you're getting sold to.
Can I say something real quick there?
Yeah.
So there was a time in my life where when I was working for other agencies, I'd look at the phone and I'd cringe. I'd be like, I'll just let it go to voicemail. There is not a single time right now that I do not answer my phone. And the only reason why I don't answer my phone, if it rings and it goes to voicemail, which I do call back everybody, is because I'm running after one of my 3 children. That's the reality.
That's the priority. Yep.
That was a mindset shift for me. Because you need to want to help. You need to want to enjoy doing what you do. If you don't, do something else. Yeah.
There's a lot of golden nuggets there. Like I know a really successful sales guy, and I asked him for sales tips, and he would say whenever he'd go to an office for a meeting, he's not thinking about selling. Yeah. He's looking on the wall for other interests. Does he have trophies? Does he have a family photo? Like, what else can I relate to him on and build a relationship? Because people do business with who they like, trust, and know, right? So you want to build that relationship first, and then the selling is natural. You don't have to even sell, right? There's something that you've built together to bond over. The selling is easy after that.
Well, it's funny you say that, actually, because I remember one of my sales meetings where I was learning how to sell to CEOs, and I was working. Let me kind of back up for a second. When I was working for the staffing agency, I was pitching to large corporations, marketing agencies, PR firms. I would literally fly all over the United States. I would book these meetings. Don't know how I did it, but I did it, and finally learned that I was doing the right thing, which again goes back to the relationship side of it. But I remember I was in Connecticut with a gentleman by the name of Rich, and he was somebody that I was mirroring to take his position, which was selling a marketing service to large brands and agencies. And I look at him, and then I look at the laptop that he pulled out at this meeting with literally a CEO right there in a whole board meeting. And on the back of his laptop were a bunch of stickers, and they were stickers of skydiving, crazy things.
As soon as you saw the skydiving, you're like, I got this guy.
Yeah, exactly. But the reason why he's like, I have those? He goes, because it starts conversations. He goes, I'm at a meeting. It's not going to make me look bad if I have it a little messy or it's a little bit of a collage. He's like, it starts that relationship. So going back to even photo boothing, it's the relationship. You're going to keep a client longer if you have that relationship. The moment you lose that relationship, you're done.
So that's the first tip, is building the relationship. Is there any other sales advice that you have? Because I think I'm picking up another bit of advice, which is you ask them stuff. What do they want? Instead of selling them things that you have photos or a deck of, right?
Absolutely.
Any other sales advice? After you have the relationship, what do you do?
Well, obviously, you got to sell them. I mean, when it comes down to it, you are going to be selling them in the end. So obviously, you do need to have the right product, and you do need to be offering them what they need. But the need is what they want. And sometimes what they want may not be what they need. You may know a little bit more, but you can't come into a conversation saying, I know better. Yep. I know more. You need to sit there and say, what is it that you need? What are you looking for? What have you done in the past? Has it worked? What hasn't worked? Tell me about that. Educate me on that information and then digest it. As you see here, I'm speaking with my hands.
I do the same thing.
when I'm in a meeting, what do they say? If Italian, if you ask them to sit on their hands, they don't talk. You know what it is? It's like, because it's always something like this. Yep. And the fact is if you're at a meeting, sit on your hands, because you want them to talk more than you, and you learn and then digest what they said, and then help them say, listen, let me help you and figure out a better way, a better process. And when it comes down to photo marketing, whether it's you creating a unique experience using a unique technology, or creating even the simplest thing is a green screen activation where the customer's like, hey, I don't want this giant green screen, but I want to have that effect. Work with them on that. Or if you have to have that actual green screen, maybe do something unique where you're using, bring in a bull, one of the mechanical bulls or something. The idea is work with them, listen to them, then have a conversation with them.
That reminds me of the concept called idea extraction. I don't know if you've heard of this, where instead of going in focused on selling certain things, your job is to just extract information, and oftentimes when the person sees that you have listened and you can summarize their problem back to them and they think that you get it, they assume that you have the solution, and they trust that you can help them. So the other thing that I'm interested in is because of all the listening that you do to people, your customer base, photo boothers. So we covered the agency side. What have you learned from your customers on what works, what doesn't work? Any advice that you've gleaned from them?
Oh, every day. I learn literally every single day from my customers, and they know it. And I thrive on what their needs are and what they enjoy and what they don't enjoy. I mean, for example, I had a relationship recently with somebody that they were doing roaming photography using a ring roamer or one of the roamers. And while they were using it, they had said to me, hey, James, I would like for the need more time to not come on so soon. Could you do me a favor and could you extend it? And I was like, sure. I mean, you're the first person to tell me this. I'm sure that other customers are going to have the same problem. We edit it. The reality is that we only know what we know. Actually, what's the phrase? It's like, you know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know, or whatever that phrase is. Yeah. And that, when I first learned that was kind of an eye-opening to me. And actually, I did that through landmark education. That's a whole nother conversation. But you don't know everything, and you don't know what you don't know. That's why if you have that relationship with somebody, hopefully they'll give you that information. And if they give you that information, specifically my customers, our customers, then I'm able to grow the business and help them use and create a better product. So,
have you seen any commonality in your clients that grow quickly, that are very successful? Is there anything that you see in them that's different than people that struggle, that are not growing as quickly?
I would say that they don't. Well, the ones that do grow are the ones that are willing to take feedback and to ask questions. There's one of our customers that was, we have a blog post about it too, where the gentleman was in jail, had tattoos everywhere, literally got out, didn't know what he was going to do with his life. And I remember working with him and literally helping him. And actually we gave him the software for a while just to use so that he could promote it and help him, get back on his feet. I mean, this guy literally was, at the time it was, pretty hard for him. And now he has a great DJ/photo booth event company, and I think it's Ohio, but it all came from him listening. And I remember being on the phone, it's like, James, how do I sell this? How do I create this event? How do I pitch this? What do I do? And this guy's awesome to the point now he's got the tattoos removed. He's a better person. I mean, I'm just saying, and I don't know his backstory, but actually I do know his backstory. But my point is that he listened. He was willing to listen, and he was willing to take the feedback and grow. And that's what happened. Yeah. This was a great story.
Yeah. That's why, I love that you're so passionate about entrepreneurship. I am too, because I think it's so powerful in helping people grow and develop. And I think that's a great story. Why were you so willing to help them?
Oh my goodness. I don't think, it's not him. First off, let me be very clear. It's not that I'm willing to help him. I live by a statement, which is basically I help everybody. If you can't help, and if you just can't be willing to help somebody, then there's no life there. Life is what you're willing to do, what you're willing to create. And if I can help anybody in the photo booth industry, which for people that know me, even in the Facebook groups and so forth, if a customer asks a question even about another application, whether it's mine or Windows or whatever, even my competitors, I'll help them. I'll get on the phone. I'll log into their system if I need to, and I will help them. I've been known to do that. And
why?
Because why not? The reality is I don't want to see anybody fail. I've failed many times, and I know what it feels like to be there. I also know what it feels like to be here, and I've been helped by other people. So in essence, I'm paying it forward. Mm-hmm. And really, that's it. I mean, I love the fact that somebody took me under their arm and helped me. And I want to do the same for them. What do they say? It's like leave a legacy, or I don't know the statement, but I want to create a legacy. Whether it's in the photo booth industry or not, I want to be known as that individual that's willing to listen and willing to help. And it's going to show also in the product that we have, which is Curator. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's an exercise people do. Imagine you're dead and people are delivering your eulogy. How would they describe you? And that's how you should live your life. How do you want them to describe you? It sounds like you're going to be known as the guy that helped people.
At least I would like to be known. Yes,
hopefully.
exactly.
Have you learned anything else from the customer base that you have on trends that you see that maybe people aren't paying attention to, or things that are coming down the pike that people should be looking at?
Sure. First off, and I was having another conversation with somebody and basically said, all right, we've all had 2 years. 2 years, all these competitors, everybody, including ourselves, have had 2 years to basically take our technology from where it was to where it is today. So even if you looked at a technology, whether it's another application or whatever that might be, revisit them, because everybody's added new function, new ways of doing things. For example, in terms of us, we've added the ability to do DSLR. And I think I demonstrated right before this meeting, taking a DSLR photo, high quality photo, removing the background right on the device. It was connected to an iPhone.
Can you explain, because we were just discussing about this before, why that matters? Why is that important that you can do it on the device?
So first off, you don't need internet to do it. That's the beauty of it. So you could literally have a roaming photographer with a DSLR camera taking pictures and then removing a background. So if you have a client that wants you to do a green screen setup, but they're not too keen on the actual green screen, you could do that. I mean, you could literally set it up and remove it. And because we're taking in a better quality photo than what an iPad does, the background removal is spot on. Yeah, it's also...
But there's other benefits to it too in terms of cost, right?
Yes, absolutely. So in terms of us, we're actually doing the processing, the AI removal directly on the device. There's no need for the internet, so there's no need for the photo to be sent up to the cloud to get some piece of information, then to give you back that actual photo. So there's no cost. We don't charge for any AI background removal.
So as that specific example, how did you come up with that idea? Because it seems so obvious. Why is everybody else not doing that? How did you come up with that?
Well, it was at the time, and this is going back. We were the first ones to have digital props. We were the first ones to have the background removal. We're still we are the only one that has background removal directly on the device. Everybody else charges you for it, and you need to be connected to the internet. And again, that's if I'm aware. I don't want to make sure I don't overstep myself. But I had the foresight, and honestly, it came down to that. I remember a client coming to me and saying, "I hate green screen. They're awful. I don't want this giant monstrosity in my event. Can you still do what it does, but without it?" And at the time, I was like, okay, let's figure it out. And we actually did use a technology that did require internet. But through evolution, obviously, several iterations, we did it on the device.
It's just fascinating because people think that I have to come up with it. I have to be smart. I have to have the foresight. But a commonality in all the things we're talking about is being open.
Oh, completely.
Listening. And the answers will come to you, but if you listen to your clients and they tell you what they like and what they don't like. So it's not really James being a genius. It's James being open and listening to everybody and taking that in and just providing the solution.
I don't know everything. I absolutely don't know everything. I'm an idiot.
You know a lot of stuff, though.
I tell everybody all the time, if you get on the phone, I'm like, I'm an idiot. I don't know anything. I don't, because there's so much more to know out there. And I'm going to learn through everyone else. And I'm going to keep getting great ideas from everybody out there. All of our customers are coming up with these great ideas. I mean, I heard several yesterday, and it's like, hey, could you do this? Could you do this? Can we do this? And I'm like, it's a great idea. Nah, it's so much of a good idea, but that's a good idea. But we'll test it. We'll play with it. We'll listen to them and figure out whether or not it makes sense and then offer it to the masses. And I think that's just how we grow. Yeah.
What are the struggles that you have had growing this software to where it is now? Oof. Or like right now, where you're at now?
Well, where do I begin?
The worst struggles.
Worst struggles were, what do they say? I can't even think of the statement, but with success comes hurdles. You've got things that you have to deal with. So I remember getting our first customer. I remember sitting in back of the computer and looking at every single photo that would come in. I remember getting our 10th customer, and literally me, Todd, Jesse, we would sit there and we'd watch every photo come in. Mm-hmm. Then I remember, all right, we got a few hundred. All right, hold on. Now we've got 1,000 events that are running. Oh boy, we've got X number of events happening on this particular day now, thousands on a day. And we're like, whoa, can we handle this? And I think the hardest thing for us was, well, how can we maintain this? And obviously making sure that our infrastructure was in place. And for me, it was making sure that I was able to have good conversations with my developers to make sure that they were doing things the way that made sense to photo booth operators. I mean, any developer out there could build an app. Any developer can make it work, but make it work the right way for a photographer, a photo boother or a photographer, and making sure that we have the right infrastructure so that not that we can grow, that our customers can grow. That was really a hurdle. It was hard because I never did this before.
Yep.
I kind of did it, but not at this scale.
Yeah, different with different challenges.
It's growth.
What did you learn about yourself over the last 2 years?
What did I learn? To take a beating and get beaten and keep getting beaten and keep standing up. And I could tell you why. We had 1-2 punch from the pandemic, from several other things as well. And honestly, I never thought I'd hit a low that I've hit before, but I would say that I'm also at a high now because you got to learn and you got to grow. So you got to be willing to take those punches, and you got to be willing to hear the positive and the negative. You got to take that feedback and go with it. Yeah.
It's crazy because oftentimes you can't see it in that moment at that low, but you have to go through those things, and then when you look back, you're like, wow, I'm in a much better position than I was before. Yeah. Oh. So it's like clear when you look back, but looking forward, it's a little blurry. You don't really know how things are going to play out.
You're right. It's just have faith in yourself. And let me go way back for 1 second. So again, I remember creating my first photo booth. I remember going out and pitched it to a few event operators. And I also remember while I was at my first event, Macy's was there. And I remember that, obviously I have the courage to talk to people. I have no problems, opening my mouth and having a conversation. And I remember Macy's being there. And next thing you know, I'm doing a Macy's event. And while I'm at the Macy's event, next thing you know, I've got a sunglass company that was inquiring whether or not we could do digital props with that. And honestly, the fear that was there to even start my first photo booth business, looking back at it, it was nothing.
Yep.
It really wasn't.
So when someone do it. When someone asks you, can you do this, and you don't know how to do it, what do you say? Yeah?
Well, I don't say yes. Let me be very clear.
You don't say yes.
I don't say yes
right,
because I don't know. What I say is, let me see. Let me see what we could do. Let me try. let me try. And let me see if it's possible. And that's one thing actually I would say. So, my partner, Todd, he always used to say to me, James, anything is possible when it comes to development. And it's true. Anything is possible, time and money. But there are some things that you have to really think about and whether or not, it's possible to do, but does it make sense? A few years ago, we offered a 360 camera. We actually did an activation and then we offered it with our software where it was a single camera 360. Not the 360s today where they go around you. It's a physical 360. We thought it was going to be a big hit. Didn't really take off. It was a great idea, but it wasn't a big hit. So could we do it? Yes. Did it make sense? No. But hopefully that.
As we wrap this conversation up, I'm curious to go back to the beginning because you talked about skydiving and you seem like an adrenaline junkie. Do you get that adrenaline as an entrepreneur, or have you learned to live without it? Like, it was a big part of your life. I think you did like 100 jumps or something like that.
Yeah, not a lot in the grand scheme of things. Not a lot at all.
And you don't do it anymore.
Nope, kids.
So how do you still get that fulfillment that you were looking for in the early days?
A lot of other ways. Recently, I think I mentioned to you. If we want to get personal, now I just built a cold plunge tank. I'm trying to look at myself, see how I personally can be better. Look at my breathing. I'm big into myself, biohacking, things like that. Natural mushrooms, not those type. Let's be clear here, not like that. But herbals and things like that. And really, I think when I was younger, I was looking for that adrenaline. I really was, and I loved it. And there's a reason why I loved it. I remember jumping out of a plane, and I remember landing. And when I landed, all that dopamine and all that release of all those chemicals that released inside your body made me very relaxed, and I loved it. I absolutely loved the feeling. So now I'm 45. That was back then in my 20s. I'm looking for how can I physically be well? How can I make sure that I'm always consistent with everybody that I talk to, and I'm not looking for adrenaline. I'm just looking for a healthy way of living. Hopefully that answers it.
One of my mentors always says the best investment that you can make is your health, right? If you're not healthy, you can't achieve all the things that you want to achieve, do all the things you want to do. Awesome, James. Any other closing remarks, anything you want to point people to?
Yeah, actually there are. So I would say this, I'm just yesterday at PBX, I've realized that there are a lot of new people in the industry. Please keep an open mind. Please make sure you ask people. There are a ton of people in this industry that have a wealth of knowledge, and you're not going to get that knowledge if you don't ask. And there's a lot of people that are willing to do it. I'm not the only one that helps. There are a lot of photo boothing companies, people, owners that are willing to help. Just ask your competitor even. You'd be shocked. Like, it's that tight of a niche. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some that's like, I'm not going to give you my special sauce. But the reality is there's a lot more out there if you're willing to listen and if you're willing to ask and be open to that information. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Thank you, James.
Thank you very much, Ismail. I appreciate this. Thank you.